Hello and welcome to another Rulebook RX. I'm Dee Dee, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Raiders of the North Sea. I'm not going to be reviewing the board game at all. I'm going to be taking a look at the rulebook, and I'm going to see how the layout, how the graphic design, and how the user experience and user interface can help you teach the game. I'm going to talk about my experiences with the game and just kind of going into some tips and tricks and what I think of the rulebook from Raiders of the North Sea. Raiders of the North Sea is designed by Shem Phillips, and the layout for the rulebook looks like it was designed by him as well. So we're going to be taking a look at that right now. All right, here we go. So we're going to be taking a look at Raiders of the North Sea by Garfield Games and Renegade Games with the graphic design and layout design by Shem Phillips. So on the cover, we have a really nice, I love the drawings on here, and that's throughout the game. You know, like these character designs just look so cool, and that's one of the things that really drew me to the game. Box art as well really does a good job. The font, easily readable, you know, from wherever, and it's a nice size rulebook as well. You know, not too crazy, a little square size, fits in the box just fine, fits on the table just fine. So as we go in here, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more of some of this stuff a little bit later. We've got each of the different sections laid out with nice blocky headers here. I do wish some of these were different colors to kind of like make it easy while you're flipping through the page, but everything is kind of laid out with, you know, at least the titles up at the top here. On your setup page, one thing that I would have really liked to have seen is just a bit more of like what is one on each of these, because you can kind of read through and grok what's going on here, but having something like place the Valkyrie and the plunder, you know, like in here, like just having maybe like a, you know, a little 4 with, you know, something over here. You know, it does show you've got your little cards down here, and this is your town. But having a bit more of an actual layout instead of just the picture of this, I think could have helped. Next here, you've got the playing the game areas with a little bit of visual representation here. These are nice to show you what's going on with each of those different areas that are on the board. And then same with this, you know, this just kind of shows like, okay, you put a guy here and you take this guy here. I think that could have been done a little better, maybe like having some lines coming off and, you know, dropping one in and that kind of stuff. But, you know, if you are following along here, you know, that's not too bad. Now, here's one thing that I am going to be checking in an ADA compliance checker in here in a little bit. But you see this blue text? That's kind of meant to, you know, say either work or raid. I really wish they would have color coordinated work and then had everything in work maybe be red and then anything with raid be blue, or vice versa. I suppose raid would have probably sounded better with a red. But this is not good. If you have any kind of like contrast issues with seeing, which the older I get, the more I'm getting used to the idea of bifocals in my future. I already have baby bumpers right now, but this might be kind of tough because the background already is like a lightish brown, where you know, this blue, having a hard time with some of it, especially when you look down here. This a little bit more bolder font, that seems quite fine. But this stuff right here as well is a bit harder to read. I know there's a little bit of glare off of my light up here, but let me see if I can find the other area that I was going to reference. So like, you know, kind of right here, place all the workers, white and gray, blah, blah, blah. And then in the parentheses, it's not bolded, and it's harder to see. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. You know, there are, when you're scoring things, it does show that, you know, you've got the scoring raids, a little bit of visual representation up here and a card up here, but a lot of text, just wall-to-wall text. You know, when you're laying something out, it almost would have been nice to have this be the text, and then if there were like any kinds of like visual representations, you know, kind of blocking that off. I want to say in a different Shem Phillips game, I want to say in Viscounts they did something like that. I might have to confirm that, but not for today. But once again, you got endgame and endgame scoring and a little bit of clarifications here. They do not have how the turn works, but you know, they do have the icons listed on here. And I think that having the icons at least is a helpful way to kind of, get that part of the teach down. So if someone's like, what does this mean? You can always just have your rulebook flipped upside down, and at least that's helpful. There are no player aids in the game, so that's a little different. But like I said, the rules are quite simple on what you can do for your turn. The only thing a player aid or even this could have done is just maybe explaining what each of those towns functions did. But I suppose that this does just as fine of that, because these symbols are the same ones that are on the board. So yeah, there we go. That is the rulebook for Raiders of the North Sea. There is no solo mode, so I'm not going to be going into that. Let's go back to the gaming booth, and I'm going to tell you what I think. Well, so there we have it. That's a rulebook for Raiders of the North Sea. So there are a couple things that I'm going to be getting into that I briefly touched on in that walkthrough of the rulebook. I did run it through an ADA compliance checker for some of those things, and yeah, they did fail. So I just took a screen grab and take that for what it's worth, because the pockets that I may have gotten those color swatches from may have been a little off depending on the camera and all of that. But when I did match what I felt was a best representation of those colors in an ADA compliance checker that I use for websites and other things to make sure anyone with like any kind of vision problems would have any kind of issues. So yeah, when it's a bold font, it seems to do okay. That passed when it's a bold font, but that little bit of explanation text and then the highlighted text, unfortunately, those didn't pass. So looking at that, as well as like how those giant pages of text, for someone with ADHD, that's not an easy lift. So maybe breaking down some of those little bits of those big bits of content there, making a little more bite-sized would have been, less problematic. I have ADHD. I was able to learn the game just fine, but caveat here, I did have a little bit of a cheat. I have played the app version of this game, which is where I, first learned how to play it. So I came with a little bit more knowledge than the average person buying the game off the shelf. When I looked at everything and I read it, line by line, when I set it up, I wanted to make sure that someone who is picking it up for the first time would be able to learn it. I think that would be the case. But like I said, there is a really stunning app by, I believe it's Direwolf Digital, and everything on that just fires on all cylinders. So if you are at all struggling, I did not have to use Rodney Smith for this, but you might, depending on if you look at that and you have ADHD as well, where you see all that text and your mind starts wandering and you start reading it and you think about other things. So, that's just one thing for designers, is to always remember that, put things into a little more bite-sized bites, as well as, that setup layout. I really wish those had numbers to coordinate to, which is doing what. And then that could have highlighted some of those, the Valkyries and the armor points, and then the victory tracks. Some of that could have really drawn more attention to that. They did have some visual representation, so that's good. But yeah, as a prognosis for Raiders of the North Sea, I'm going to give it an ADA compliance ding, just because of the readability issues with the contrast and big pages for people like me that struggle with some of that kind of stuff. So other than that, I wish there at the top of the pages, I wish those sections that just had that brown area was color coordinated to say, this is the setup, this is the gameplay, this is a raid, this is your regular turn of harvesting different areas of that town. So yeah, once again, like and subscribe if you like this kind of thing. I'm going to be taking a look at all kinds of different rule books. I'm going to go over the layout and the user experience and the graphic design with each of those, trying to figure out better ways of how to make something that is really hard to grok. And that's usually an instruction book for players that I know that are kind of new to the thing. How to make it better. What are some of the choices they did that I don't think worked? What are some choices they did make better? If you like that kind of thing, subscribe. And if you really liked what I did here, why don't you throw a like on there, and I'll like you right back. If you have any questions, just type them in down below and I'll be happy to answer them when I can. But for now, Raiders of the North Sea, with that ADA compliance ding from me, Dee, here at the Rulebook RX. Stop on by next time, and I'm happy you came by today. Thanks so much, and have a great day.